What is up, spooky people? Welcome to another episode of Oddity Acres. Today we find ourselves in Brookfield, Ohio. We're checking out something pretty cool. So a lot of times on Oddity Acres we find ourselves in cemeteries because we're talking about the people that are buried under these stones. But today we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to talk about the person that carved these stones. The man's name is Elijah Sikes, and he has quite a story to tell. Right now I'm standing next to his grave and next to his wife's grave, but around me are multiple graves that he actually carved. Very few of them are in Ohio, but there are a few. There's over 930 estimated graves that he carved in his lifetime, spanning states from Massachusetts, Vermont, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Just absolutely incredible pieces that tell a story about people's lives. So we're going to bring you along on this journey. We're going to talk a little bit about his life, so stay tuned. So Elijah was born in 1772 in Belchertown, Hampshire County, Massachusetts. And throughout his life, he would pick up the trade of grave carving from his father, who was also part of the trade. At 20 years old, in 1792, he would carve his first grave for a girl named Hannah Dwight. And she is buried in South Cemetery in Belchertown, Hampshire County, Massachusetts. So because he learned from his father, a lot of his early work looked a lot like his father's. He would have a lot of ghostly effigies and twirling vines, like a very spooky vibe, a lot of memento mori, remember death. That was a lot of things that he incorporated into it because that's kind of the art that he had come from and what he learned from his father. So on January 10th, 1794, Elijah would marry Lucretia Anderson, who we're standing here with right now. In fact, she's buried here and Elijah is buried here, but we'll tell you that part of the story in a little bit. So they were married, and then they would move to Dorset, Vermont, where he would own a marble quarry and hone in a lot of his skills as far as carving and engraving and that kind of stuff. Now, during that time, he'd start experimenting with a lot of neoclassical styles, the drooping willows and the oval-shaped urns and that kind of stuff that you'd see in a lot of these older tombstones. So in 1816, he would move back to Massachusetts for about 11 years before moving to Brookfield, Ohio, which is where we are right now. We're just north of Youngstown, so not quite northeast Ohio, but that kind of general area. We're very close to the Pennsylvania border, very close to Sharon, Pennsylvania. And here he'd continue to create and carve and make these beautiful headstones for families. Some families even hired him to make headstones, remake headstones for people that passed 15, 20 years earlier, just because they needed an updated, more beautiful piece for their family member. Now, tragically, on October 12th, 1829, his wife Lucretia would pass away at 55 years old. She was buried here in the Brookfield Cemetery, right behind me. So this is hers and Elijah's final resting place. Now, one of the craziest things that keeps coming up in this research that I've done about Elijah is that he never did get to carve her headstone. So you can see that she has a very plain headstone. And you would think with all his artistic ability and all of his artistic skills that you would see some beautiful pieces of art and carvings, but this is it right here. It is still an absolute beautiful cemetery to be buried in, though. Now, a few years later, he would get remarried to a Clarissa Giddings, January 7th, 1831, after making the stone for her late husband. So right in front of us here is Levi Giddings. It says he died on August 10th, 1824, age 44 years old. And you can see that same kind of classic carving that Elijah did a lot in his later work. More traditional, neoclassical, as opposed to the style that his father did. And this is also the husband who passed of his future wife, Clarissa Giddings. So he would go to carve the stone for this gentleman and then marry his wife years later. And then right behind me too is another amazing, beautiful piece that Elijah did. Check this out. This is the grave of Edward Burton. But look at how ornate this is. Absolutely incredible. I just can't believe how long this has stayed so pristine. It looks like it was carved. I mean, it doesn't look like it was carved yesterday, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, you can still make out everything. I also want to mention for all you cemetery nerds like me, this is crazy cool. So this is also Edward's spot. It looks like it's family plot as well, but I've never seen a stone like this that is propped up like that. How crazy cool is that? Now Elijah would go on still creating, still carving, still making these beautiful things. As I said, over 930 across the New England states, all the way over from Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, Vermont, Massachusetts. He would go on creating these beautiful pieces of art, these beautiful final resting places for these individuals until September 11th, in 1855. He would die at the age of 83. He would be buried next to his wife. So we came to pay the respects to the man that's not only buried under this stone, but that carved a lot of stones in this cemetery. And we're gonna explore a few right now. There's quite a few that are in this cemetery, and then we're actually gonna head up to Ashtabula. There's a few more that are up there as well. So right behind me are two different graves that Elijah carved while he was alive. One of which we have the entire story about, the other which we don't know so much about, but come check this out, pretty cool. So first over here, we're in old section 1 of the cemetery. We have the grave of Emmeline M. Caldwell, and you can see the beautiful urn that Elijah had carved in here. Very ornate. And then next to her is Ezra Hart. And we do know a little bit about Ezra. He was born in Avon, Hartford County, Connecticut, and he moved to Ashtabula, where he unfortunately died at the age of 19. He drowned in August of 1816. So a tragic story here. And this is his grave. You can see the weeping willow, which is obviously very traditional. And it was, you know, very similar to a lot of stuff that Elijah did. But as you can tell, it was broken at one point, and it's great because it looks like they fixed it, or they're trying to at least. It looks like it's missing a piece still, but the fact that they're trying to restore it and take care of it is incredible. Just look at this place. It is so cool. So much history right here. So right here is another beautiful stone carved by Elijah Sikes. You can see the urn there, and they call those two, I've been calling them willows, but apparently from what I've been reading, they're called scalloped fans. I think I like willows more, but that's apparently what they're called. This stone is beautiful, and the way that it's held up is incredible. I mean, you can still see the detail in the flowering on the urn. I mean, just impressive. Died July 22nd, 1828, age 31 years old. Wow. What's so incredibly cool about these carvings and the epitaphs that are on these stones is that they tell a story. They tell about this person's life. Everything means something. It's the symbolism behind it. I mean, you could walk through all these old cemeteries and you see Masonic symbols and Oddfellows symbols, and, you know, symbols that represent early death and people's religion. And if you know what you're looking at, you can tell a lot about somebody, and it's just incredible pieces of art, you know, when you talk about someone like Elijah who took the time to learn this craft. Now, I also want to mention something really crazy. So this story that we're talking about, Elijah and his life and his cemetery stone carvings, his gravestone carvings, this kind of comes full circle because there was a vlog that I did this year, not too long ago, end of last year, beginning of this year, about Frances Maria Buell. Tragic story about an untimely death of this beautiful young woman. But this headstone is a beautiful, ornate headstone created for her. And I remember when I was doing the vlog, I had no clue who Elijah was. I had no clue of his story. I just remember seeing this headstone and thinking about how beautiful and ornate it was. It was carved by Elijah. Crazy. I'm going to insert some footage here so you can see that if you haven't seen the vlog. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out because it's a crazy story. But I'm going to insert some footage right here. It says, in memory of the young and beautiful innocent Frances Maria Buell, who was butchered by her stepfather, Ira W. Gardner, August 8th, 1832, in the 16th year of her age. It's always tragic to cover stories like this, but it is a piece of history, and to forget Maria's name would probably be a more tragic thing. So to keep her spirit alive and to remember her, we cover these kind of things. So from my research, I know that there's at least 10 people that are buried here that he carved stones for. We were able to find some of the names, like the people that we showed you, but there are some names that I wasn't able to find. So, I mean, we didn't obviously see 10 different people. So There are a lot of stones that are very similar to the traditional art that he did throughout his career. So we'll kind of show a couple of those and you be the judge. It's just something cool to explore this old cemetery. So we're gonna pay our final respects to Elijah and his wife Lakrita, and then we're gonna head up north to Ashtabula, where some more of Elijah's carvings are. Stay tuned. So right now we are in the old Kingsville Corners Cemetery, and it is crazy cool. I mean, this is one of the oldest cemeteries I think I've ever been in, and it's fitting because it's right next to this beautiful church. And we are here because we are looking for the final 3 graves that are buried here that Elijah carved. And I think I already see one. So this is the grave of Almarin Gillette. And as you can tell, the same kind of style that Elijah would typically carve, the beautiful urn and the willows, the scripture book on the side, the beautiful flowers. So cool. Just beyond the other grave is a grave of Betsy Cook. Again, with the willow, the beautiful ornate. Now this one's cool because it's actually carved out a little bit rounded at the top, making it a little bit different than the others. Now Betsy Cook died at age 34 years old. And you know what, aside from all the weathering, I mean, it's still in pretty good shape. You can make out a lot of the words. And finally, this is the grave of Clarissa Wyman. She died at 25 years old. And as I said, you can see the same carvings, the same style that Elijah usually did. Just incredible. Just take a second to look at how beautiful the cemetery is. So much history in one place, just right under your feet and in front of your eyes, thanks to Elijah Sikes. What an incredibly cool story to tell about an individual that had so much to do with history and how, you know, these stones were carved. I mean, it's incredible to talk about it and just think about all the history that's right below our feet. I mean, you come to these old cemeteries and, you know, these are individuals that had lives that, you know, much like us, you know, and to have a story to be told through art and through Elijah's carvings, it makes it even more real. It makes it just so incredibly interesting. So I want to thank you for joining us on another adventure with Oddity Acres, this time exploring the life of Elijah Sikes, an artist and a storyteller. When you look at some of these old stones and, you know, thinking about the 930 other stones that he carved across northern United States, you know, be that Vermont, Massachusetts, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I mean, he now plays an eternal role in these people's lives because he was the person that put their story on their stone. It's incredible, and I'm really thankful you guys joined us on this adventure. Please, if you have the time, like and subscribe, and leave us a comment. And let us know if you have any stones in your area, in your state, that Elijah had carved, and I'd be interested to hear about it. Until then, we will see you next time on another adventure Stay scared. Happy Halloween.